Hello, welcome to another episode of From Scene to Cinema. My name is Darius Dawson. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about the writing process. Last time I talked a little bit about my writing process for Trash, and this time we're going to talk about Downstream. Um, Much like Trash, my ideals come from real life, my own life, my father's life, my grandmother's life, and Downstream is no different. But this time I decided to take some things that were a little bit closer to home, and just like some things that were actually actual real things, and then I just decided to try to put them in to the story, almost like unchanged. I guess it all starts for me with like ideal. Sometimes it's like as specific as one scene. Maybe I see one scene, or I go through like one thing in life, and then I'm like, okay, I could use this as like feel for an entire film, and then I just take other pieces of things from my life and just kind of put it all together, and then I kind of connect it all and try to make a story. As I've mentioned in like the previous episode, I'm not completely interested in strictly narrative films. A lot of what I do is I think more so on the side of non-narrative. So for me, it's a lot of finding out what are the themes of what I'm trying to do, and a lot of times it's kind of aligns with what I'm going on in my life at that time. So once I have all of the events that I'm interested in portraying, and then I have like these themes that I kind of want to concern myself with. Next, I just string it all together. I find out where I want to start, and I find out where I want to end, and then from there it's kind of like filling in the blanks. It's really it sounds like a process, but it's really more all of these moving parts are moving at the same exact time. It happens like really fast for me, and so the initial writing process isn't a very long process. I get my ideas out pretty quickly, and then from there it's just like critiques. And as I mentioned before, I try to find 3, 4, or 5 people who I kind of respect, and like I think you have to do people who are knowledgeable of whatever your style is, and then also not. So older, some old professors I've had who also do non-narrative films themselves, I've kind of reached out to. My wife, of course, she's like my biggest critic. And then just other filmmakers, and maybe even non-filmmakers. I think it's good to have a diverse audience. I think the thing for me, to remember about non-filmmakers reading scripts is that, they don't quite understand how something goes from ideation all the way into the final form, so they may not be able to see the forest for all the trees, or the trees for all the forest. Not sure what the phrase is. But it is good for initial reactions. I think of things that you wouldn't think of. So once I have some critiques going, the rewriting process actually, I don't know if it's right to call it a rewriting process, but when I'm going back and kind of trying to make things make a little bit more sense, that's always a little bit more difficult than the initial writing process, because I'm taking things out, and it's like sometimes things become precious to you, especially if it's things you've actually been through, and it's like, someone's like, oh, hey, that doesn't quite make sense, but you're like, oh yeah, but so it's always like a struggle, and when you get critique, if you're interested in non-narrative films or experimental films or something like that, you're always going to get the "this doesn't make sense" line, and I think from there, I think that most of the time, we as artists are just, the moment when you're actually an artist is when you make that decision of whether you're going to leave something in or take something out. Like, that's the moment when you're truly an artist, and it's like you have to stick by your decisions. So I think that we've all, made mistakes, and we have to live by them. So So yeah, so the rewriting process is always like it's a difficult process of what stays in, what doesn't. Um, a lot of people say, well, I'm gonna keep it in and just shoot it all and decide later, but I think indecisiveness is the biggest. When people see you're indecisive, it's like it's blood in the water. Your crew loses faith in you, your actors lose faith in you, and so if you really want to be really decisive, you have to know the most about this film. So the rewriting process is for you to really become familiar with the film. Um, um, a big thing for me, since a lot of my films are based on things I've been through, is character. I think I do more character pieces more so than like strictly narrative films. So when I'm rewriting something, I'm focusing on is like, is this something authentic to this character? And I think that the way to do that is sometimes for me, my process is it could be kind of hectic for living normal life because I have to put myself in a physical and mental space of I have to go back. It's kind of like almost like Meisner for directing. It's like I have for writing. I have to either go back to that space that I was in when whatever happened to me, or I have to if it didn't specifically happen to me, I have to imagine what that was like for this character. So it's like I'll be like moping around the house for like a week or two. I'm like I'm just like this crazy person because I'm just trying to imagine the situation and be authentic to the moment, and it's it's kind of it's kind of difficult for you and the ones around you, but I don't know. I like to do it because authenticity is all about authenticity, and I feel as if that's the way I get authentic things. That's how I end up getting authentic performances later on. So yeah, so putting yourself, whether it's, and it doesn't have to be as extreme as if you've got a character who's addicted to heroin or something like that. You don't need to go out and do heroin, but it's like you do have to. I feel this is my opinion, of course. I do feel that you have to put yourself in a place where it's like, what would a character who needs this, who wants this, like this is their world, like what would they do? What is it like when they speak? What are they like when they eat? Like what time do they go to bed? And it's like and if you're like a writer director, once you know all these things, you're able to communicate all this background stuff to your actors. You just end up with a stronger product. So yeah, that's a big part of my writing process is actually becoming each and every character, and just being them, and then actually writing their scenes as them, and then kind of of course, cleaning it up with the actors later. The last thing I want to talk to you about is budget. Low budget films, indie films, in the writing process. I feel as if you should definitely write what you want to see, and say what you have to say, and shoot for the stars. But I think there has to be a point, especially in the rewriting process, where we're prepared to come back down at least into the clouds. It's just like logistically speaking, it's like you've got $2,000, $5,000, whatever your situation is for your short film, and maybe you're doing a very small feature. It only hurts yourself to think that you're gonna have 12 helicopters when it's like, okay, you can't. And I think that's when we start to get creative. Is like, is it good enough to do it like through CG, that a program that you could buy online, and to do the CG if you have something like that going on, or do we actually need this done? Do we need this explosion? It's like it's all about the storytelling. It's not about so much the razzle dazzle. It's like, I think that a short film is like the combination of it's definitely the combination of technical ability and storytelling, but the storytelling with finesse, a big S, a capital S, whereas the technical ambition is a little less important. A good story shines through all the way. So it's like you're inspired by Star Wars. You want to be just like that. You want to be just like George Lucas and tell a story like Star Wars, but it's like, hey, you don't have Star Wars money. So it's like, what is at the root of Star Wars? It's like, father and son. It's like, lost family. It's about, it's about hope. It's about a lot of stuff. It's like, what are these themes? And it's like, I think that I'm kind of coming back to the point of just finding these themes, especially if you're into, whether you're into narrative or non-narrative or experimental, or even if you're doing documentaries, it's like, what is your theme? This is going to dictate, what you shoot. It's going to dictate what direction to go in, and it gives you something, to focus on. If you're the type of person who makes note cards and kind of like builds the story and stuff like that, it's like if you find yourself, you're writing a feature, you're on page 45, and you find yourself a little bit lost. It's like if you've got, your theme kind of written down somewhere, it gives you a place to ground yourself. So a lot of times that's what I do. I do a lot of paper writing actually. I'll write, part of the script on paper and just write a whole bunch of ideas, and eventually it all gets put into, of course, a writing program. But yeah, but what's always in my mind is like I know what's physically possible for me at where I am as far as budget and as far as like, where I am as a filmmaker. So I think that I think if you're a writer director, definitely be realistic with yourself, be realistic with your tools, and be ready to do the work to make it all happen. Thank you for watching another episode of From Scene to Cinema. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on all the other social media sites. The links will be in the box below. Thank you very much, and until next time.